Hi there, thanks for watching this video if you are. I just wanted to do a little video which will probably run quite long, so thanks for sticking around if you do. It's to showcase my Tartan Asia Extreme DVDs. I know there's a lot of interest in Asian films these days, growing interest, with many of the sort of specialist labels like Arrow, Eureka, 88 Films, various others releasing quite a lot of movies from Asian countries. Some new stuff, some older stuff, some remastered, repackaged Blu-rays of some of these films. Third Window's another one. But anyway, I've got a real soft spot for the DVDs, though. I spent years collecting all of these, which, you know, anyone who's a collector, anyone who's into this stuff knows the bug. As soon as you get it, you almost can't stop. But yeah, I don't know when it sort of spilled over into what I'd essentially term an obsession, which it is. It's a mild obsession. Being a collector of this kind of stuff, being a collector of anything, I suppose, it's a sort of obsessive behaviour. But I had initially bought, I think on VHS, I had bought a few films which I loved, and then I obviously upgraded to DVD. Upgraded. There's an interesting term considering the quality of stuff we've got now. But anyway, yeah, upgraded to DVD for some of those films, and then when I realised there was a sort of they were in a series with sort of similar packaging, etc., etc. It just something clicked, and I spent, as I say, I spent years getting all of these films. So anyway, what I'll do is I'll just go quickly through them all, and if you're a collector yourself, it gives you an idea of what's available. As far as I know, I've got every single film they've released in at least one edition. Some films I've got in more than one edition, because that's how mad the compulsion is. Anyway, we'll kick off with the film that pretty much kicked off the whole interest in Asian films, especially sort of dark films and horror films and you know, extreme films, if you like, which is Hideo Nakata's Ring. A fantastic movie. Absolutely loved it when I first saw it, as I say, on VHS, and then the DVD again, brilliant. And most recently on Blu-ray, Arrow have released a box set of the trilogy, cracking. And then obviously Ring 2 was the next one. And I've got these in what I think is the right order. I've got them in catalogue order, mostly. There's a couple I don't, but mostly in catalogue order. But we'll get to that when I get to it. I'm obviously Ring must have come out before Ring 2. But I'm not sure about everything else, but I think it's pretty close. But we'll see as we go. Anyway, I haven't seen this one, Korean film Nowhere to Hide. I don't think I've seen it, actually. I certainly don't remember it, which is an indication I've not watched it. But that looks quite good. And then we've got the next one, which I think with the Ring films and a few others, really kind of just absolutely, you know, open the floodgates to all this kind of stuff. Battle Royale. Kenji Fukasaku, if I've pronounced that right. His last proper film. He did work on the sequel, but died before it was finished. So his son kind of finished that, which I think is why it's a little bit patchier than this absolute beast of a film. Again, Arrow released this many times. I've got many different editions of it, and we'll see some of those because some of those are tartan. Ring Zero, the sequel prequel to the Ring films, not Hideo Nakata. I haven't seen this primarily because the reviews are pretty poor, and apologies for that background noise, you can hear it. Somebody's blowing leaves outside. So let's move swiftly on. Freezer, another one I haven't seen, but this one exemplifies what I kind of love about these early releases. They're doing what 88 films do it with a lot of their releases, especially their Italian stuff. It's almost like a throwback to the VHS days. And if you grew up in the 80s, if you were old enough in the 80s to remember going into the video shops, especially if you were into films, as most of us were when we were kids, part of the fun of video shops was looking at the VHS covers, especially the back, because they'd often have loads of, as you saw there, loads of lurid images which, you know, even if you hadn't seen the film, would just fire imagination up. I love doing it. It's brilliant. Bangkok Dangerous, a film by the Pang brothers. Again, I haven't seen this, but I've seen a couple of their films and they're really good. I need to get around to this. I believe this has been remade with Nicolas Cage in it, of all people. Princess Blade, again, and I haven't seen this one, but I think this one's based on the Izumi story. I don't know, I can't remember if that's a manga. I've got the actual Izumi films elsewhere. But yeah, it's sort of like, looks like kind of futuristic samurai manga comic book type of stuff. And then first of, and the infamous director Takashi Miike, City of Lost Souls. Now, I haven't seen a lot of these sort of crime triad stuff, but you know, he's an insanely prolific director and usually always very interesting movies. Now, these next two films I have moved around from the catalogue numbers, but the first one, Shinjuku Triad Society, another Miike film. This is the first in a trilogy, and the second one's Rainy Dog. And again, as I say, I haven't seen these films. This trilogy, the Black Society trilogy as it's called, that's also been released by Arrow, as has the next trilogy, which is the Dead or Alive trilogy, another Miike bunch of films. And again, I haven't seen these, but everything I've sort of seen and read about them, they just sound absolutely bonkers. So we've got Dead or Alive 2, which is the next one, and the third films to each of those is a little bit later on. And now we come to Shinya Tsukamoto's Tetsuo. Absolutely indescribably bonkers film this. It is just mad. I watched this a few years ago with a friend and we were just gobsmacked. I'd had it for years, and then we eventually got around to watching it, and it was just like, what the hell is this? I've seen it again. Third Window released it and the sequel in Blu-ray. Well worth getting. And Third Window are great because they seem to be on a mission to release pretty much every Tsukamoto film going. There's a whole bunch. Certainly I've got all the ones they released. They've got another one coming out soon. And I'm going to certainly get them all watched at some point. Another Pang, or certainly one of the Pang brothers, Bangkok Haunted. Again, I haven't seen this, but I probably should because I love my scary, freaky movies. And this is the thing with Tartan Asia Extreme, you know, obviously it's maybe a bit of a contentious label to a lot of people, and I understand that because you're essentially lumping you're lumping various different countries and cultures filmmaking under one label. You know, it's maybe a little bit cheeky considering even just one of those countries, their output is absolutely incredible and varied. But, you know, it is what it is, or it was what it was. But anyway, let's move on. Versus, absolutely love this film. Again, Arrow's released this on a Blu-ray, and I watched it again recently, and it is just mad. It's so good. It's everything extreme you can imagine. Zombies, demons, gore, violence, samurais, martial arts, occults, Yakuza. It's just, it shouldn't work, but it does. It really does. It's a cracking film. If you haven't seen it, certainly track it down. Ideally the Blu-ray. But again, I have watched the DVD many years ago, and yeah, it's a cracking film. It's a decent release. You know, the only issue with these DVDs now is that the technology is surpassing them. So whilst they were great at the time on the players that we had, the Blu-ray players of today, it really shows up the limitations of DVD now, which is a shame. But I am going to invest in a DVD player just so I can watch these. Anyway, Ley Lines, that's the third in the Black Society trilogy from Miike. We've got another Pang film, Oxide Pang, One Take Only. Again, I haven't seen this, but this looks cracking as well. Korean film, Shiri. As I say, yeah, there's loads of... this I believe is quite a big blockbustery film from Korea. I believe this has the actress who played Sun in the Lost series. I'm sure I've read about this. This is like, I can't remember if it's a spin-off from a TV show or the TV show spun off from this, but apparently this was like one of the biggest Korean films at the time. But yeah, that was cracking. But yeah, as we go on, you know, you'll see that the Asia Extreme label sort of really expanded beyond what the initial remit was, which is obviously extreme movies. There's a lot of sort of, you know, not generic ghost stories, but kind of more typical ghost stories, with also some thrillers, actiony films. It kind of became a bit loose, the interpretation as to what extreme was. But anyway, I haven't seen this, but I know this one's pretty much lives up to that label. Another Miike film, Habits of Katakuri's. This is another bonkers film, which is apparently zombies, animation, family drama, comedy, musicals, I believe. I believe there's songs in this. Stop motion. Yeah, this, and again, Arrow have released this. It's definitely well worth tracking down, I think. I will get to it. Snake of June, another Tsukamoto film, which I will get watched. And this has been released by Third Window on Blu-ray. As I say, the main reason I'm doing this video is so that people can see what what they released, if you've got gaps in your collection. Hideo Nakata's Dark Water, obviously this was remade with, gosh, can't remember her name now, but it was remade in America. I was a bit disappointed in this one. I actually have seen this, but I was a bit disappointed. I was expecting something really, really creepy, and I don't know, just some. I'll need to give it another watch. This has also had a Blu-ray released by Arrow. But yeah, I'll need to give that another watch. Maybe I just wasn't in the mood for it. And one of the few Chinese Hong Kong films that Tartan Asia did. Full Time Killer, so a Johnny To film. I haven't seen this one, but I've seen a few Johnny To films and they are cracking. Another Korean film, Public Enemy. Again, haven't seen this, but it looks absolutely brilliant. Great reviews. Kim Kai-duk, or Kim Ki-duk, I don't know how to pronounce that, I do apologise. Bad guy. Kim Kai-duk, he actually passed away earlier this year from COVID-related for COVID-related reasons, sorry. I've never actually seen a Kim Kai-duk film. I think I've got about a dozen or so, many of which are by Tartan, or through Tartan, but I've never actually watched one. He's a very controversial director, but apparently very, very good. So yeah, we'll get round to it at some point. And speaking of controversial, another Takashi Miike film, Visitor Q. This one I haven't seen it, but I do know the story, and yeah, it's I'd certainly say controversial applies. And another Miike film, Agitator, another one I haven't seen. And the first of my double dips, or triple dips, or whatever, Battle Royale, the special edition. This is the 2-disc set, because I got this because it had some extra footage and an alternate ending, which was the main reason, but also because, as I say, I'm a crazy collector. And another Hong Kong film, John Woo's Hard Boiled, which I think, interestingly, yeah, the only John Woo film that Tartan Asia Extreme released. Probably because Hong Kong Legends, which I've also got a number of films by, released quite a few of his output from this period. But Hard Boiled is just incredible. Bizarrely, this has not had a Blu-ray release in this country, and that is an absolute disgrace. I do apologise, I'll just move that one over. Yeah, an absolute disgrace that it hasn't, because it is an incredible film. Absolutely incredible, and I will give that a rewatch at some point. And Infernal Affairs, Andy Lau and Alan Mack, first of a trilogy. Now, this is a brilliant film, and again, the only Blu-ray release of this is it's Palisades Tartan. The Palisades took over the Tartan brand when it eventually folded. And I don't even know if Palisades is going anymore, but there is a Blu-ray of the trilogy of this. But I didn't realise, I watched, if you've seen The Departed, this is the original version of that. I watched The Departed not knowing it was a remake, and I liked The Departed. It was a good film, but it's just something about it I couldn't put my finger on that just didn't work for me. And then anyway, I found out it was a remake of Infernal Affairs. I watched that, and I much prefer the original. So it's not always about the first one you see or the first thing you hear, as they used to say about cover versions. Another Miike film, The Infamous Audition, and as I say, I think this, along with the Ring films, Battle Royale, Tetsuo to a certain extent, this is what really kicked off the whole Asia Extreme phenomena, if you like. This is an insane film. I kind of knew what was going to happen. I'd read about this, so I knew what was going to happen. It kind of robbed me of some of the shock value or the suspense, but it still works as an absolute nightmare dream type film. As I say, Battle Royale 2, started by Kenji Fukasaku and finished by his son Kenta. Not the best film. I will have to give it a rewatch. Probably I'll rewatch the Blu-ray. But yeah, as far as I remember, it wasn't great. Now, another double dip, the Ring box set. The reason I bought this was, it's got a great, what they call lenticular, if you can just see that. I'll sort of try and not get the light to flash on it. You can kind of see that moving. It's almost like a very, very rough 3D kind of thing. But it has, if this will focus, there is a fourth film in here, not related to the Ring films, called Sleeping Bride, which is a unseen or unreleased Hideo Nakata film. I haven't watched it yet, but that is the main reason I bought that. Another Miike film, Gozu. I've heard this is absolutely insane. We'll get to it at some point. And another Hideo Nakata film I haven't watched, but I am very much lining up to watch, Chaos, because I believe there's a French remake of this, which I quite fancy. I'll just move that DVD out of the way. Things are getting a little bit annoying. Infernal Affairs 2, yep. What more to say? It's a cracking follow-up, expands the stories, does a bit of a Godfather 2 thing where it jumps back in the past, flips about the timelines. Tale of Two Sisters, incredible Korean film. I love this. If you want to see something just mind-boggling, creepy, compelling, this is the one. Again, that's been released on Blu-ray by Arrow, so it's definitely worth a watch. Right, I'm just going to change hands here. Phone. Yeah, I have seen this. This is one of the ones where it's like starting to get into the kind of not generic. I don't want to use the word generic, but you're kind of like more typical Ring follow-ups in the wake of that movie's success. But this is a decent film. It's well worth a watch. You know, it's pretty good. Not really much more to say about that. The Isle, again, Kim Kai-duk, I haven't seen, as I say, but yeah, this is meant to be absolutely very, very disturbing and controversial. I think you have to be in the mood for films like that, and I very rarely am. Save the Green Planet, yeah, I've seen this a while back. It is very typical or atypical of certain films from certainly Korea and Japan. Do these films quite well, where they're on the surface they're quite silly and kind of fun, but underneath there's a darker, sinister kind of tone, and this one exemplifies that. Absolutely brilliant. And The Eye, another classic, and again I've got this in a lenticular sleeve, which I love. The Pang Brothers films, again this has been remade. And but I haven't seen the remake because the original is freaky. I've seen this about 3 or 4 times and it never fails to terrify me. But yeah, weirdly that's not got a Blu-ray release. Now the first, as I say, I put these in catalogue number order, most of these films. So this one's slightly out of order. But Old Boy, this is the infamous Old Boy, Park Chan-wook's movie. It's actually the second of his, what they call the Vengeance trilogy. This has been released on Blu-ray with Arrow again. But I would have seen this first because I would have got it first. But yeah, this is absolutely brilliant. Absolutely insanely good film. Nothing like it, really. I2, Pang Brothers again. They did all 3 of the films in this trilogy. I haven't seen the second one, but I will get round to it. I have seen the third one, but we'll come to that. And here's Sympathy for Mr. Vengeance. This is the first of Park Chan-wook's Vengeance trilogy. It's called a trilogy not because the characters or story are related. It's just thematically to do with vengeance, because some of the same actors appear across all 3 films, but they're not playing the same characters. Tell Me Something. Yeah, don't really know much about this one, but it looks pretty gruesome. Love that cover though. That cover is fantastic. We'll get round to watching that. As I say, I might do a project where I watch all these films over the course of probably a couple of months it would take me. And yeah, Infernal Affairs 3, great finish to the trilogy. And as I say, I would really love somebody to release that on a special edition Blu-ray. H, another one I don't really know much about. I've got a feeling this has been remade as well, but I don't know. But yeah, we'll get there. This one has been released on Blu-ray, again by Arrow. Joint Security Area, JSA. This is Park Chan-wook again, one of his earlier films before the Vengeance trilogy. I have seen this. It's a cracking film. Really good. It's a sort of thrillery, psychological thrillery crime, but it's set in the demilitarized zone? Well, the DMZ between North and South Korea. And an investigatory team comes in to find out what happens. I think there's a murder. And they come in to find out what's happening. And basically it unfolds. If you've seen Basic, it's a bit like that, where different stories or different viewpoints are shown from the various witnesses. And then eventually they find out what happened. The only downside of that is the Western actors at the start are incredibly amateur, which plagues a lot of Asian films. Into the Mirror, another decent little Korean horror. This was actually remade as Mirrors. I didn't realise it was a remake until I started. It had been remade until I started watching it. I saw Mirrors first. Not a fan. We'll just say that. Not a fan. Started watching this and then realised, oh, that's very similar to that film. Found out it was the original, and I have to say, whilst this isn't particularly scary, I thought it's a much better film. I love the way they dealt with the sort of concept, the whole mirror image stuff. There's a lot of sort of very clever and smart camera moves and angles, which really sort of unsettle. And this one's up here simply because it was easier to get the DVDs out. Acacia, I think that's how you pronounce that. This looks really, really creepy. I haven't seen it, but yeah, definitely looking forward to that. And down here, we have another Hong Kong film, Heroic Duo. Benny Chan. Now, Benny Chan sadly passed away recently. But Benny Chan, haven't seen this particular film, but he made quite a lot of films. I think his most recent one has just been released with Donnie Yen, Raging Fire, and I am gagging to see it because I've seen a few Benny Chan films, like Call of Heroes. He did New Police Story, I think it was New Police Story, and a few others, and he's a fantastic director, absolutely brilliant. So I'm looking over Invisible Target. That's the other film I was trying to remember. Yeah, he was a brilliant director. Yeah, definitely worth checking out. So Heroic Duo would be on my list soon. Coma. Yeah, another one I don't really know much about. Looks kind of cool. That's another nice cover. I like this. I like it when they change up the boxes. You know, you get your generic black DVD boxes, and then every now and again somebody will throw in something like this. That's just lovely. Yeah, sad I know, but you know, that's me. And another Shinya Tsukamoto film, Vital. Haven't watched this, but you know, looks suitably bonkers. I will get round to it. I'm making my way through his films. That hasn't had a Blu-ray release in this country yet, but it has had a Blu-ray release in the US through Arrow, bizarrely, who put out a whole box set of his films, including that. But I didn't feel it was necessary to get that, primarily because of a region-free player, and I wasn't going to pay 70 quid for a box set for one film. Korean horror, R Point. Yep, this looks brilliant. You know, soldiers, ghosts, death, blood. You know, can't go wrong with that. And Infection, another lenticular sleeve. This is part of a series, the J Horror Collection. I think there were 6 films. They aren't connected by anything other than, I think they were commissioned by the same producers and studio. But yeah, I'll talk more about them when I get to the other ones. AB Normal Beauty or Abnormal Beauty. I think this is another Pang Brother film. Haven't watched this, but you know, we'll get there. I can't watch everything. Guys. One Night in Mongkok. Yep, haven't seen this. Don't know much about it. I think it's a gangstery type film. Dumplings, Fruit Chan's Dumplings. Another one I haven't seen, but I've heard a lot about, and it's meant to be pretty gruesome, pretty bonkers. And another Public Enemy, the sequel to Public Enemy. Now, this one I have seen, A Bittersweet Life. This is a cracking film. As you can see there, it's the director that did A Tale of Two Sisters. And it stars, if it will focus on there, Lee Byung-hun, if I'm pronouncing that right. Lee Byung-hun has been in loads of films. He's sort of successfully made a transition over to Hollywood, where he's been in various films like the G.I. Joe movies and a few others. But this is a cracking action-y, gangstery type film. Bit ludicrous at times, but you know, who cares? Premonition, another lenticular sleeve, and this is another one in the J-horror collection. Basically, it's a series of films, 6 films by different directors, and it's just like to sort of, you know, make some new J-horror stuff. Maybe there was flagging interest at the time, and that was to produce it. 3 Extremes 2, as I say, I put these in catalogue order, so I've got this first, and then we've got 3 Extremes 1. 3 Extremes, basically, it's 3 short films by 3 directors. The first one, which is this one, the directors are more notable on it: Park Chan-wook, Takashi Miike, Fruit Chan, as you can see there. And if you look there, Dumplings, it's the original short, which was then made into the full-length film. Neither of which I've seen, but I'll get there eventually. The Jewel Project, yeah, basically this was 2 directors that were challenged to make a film in a short period of time, with limited cast and one set rather. And yeah, I don't know how successful they were. They've obviously made their films, but I don't know how successful they were. One of the directors on this is the guy that did Versus, so it'll be interesting to see. Inner Senses, yep, again, haven't seen it. Now, this is one of those rare films. It's a Chinese film or Hong Kong film, which looks like it's genuinely creepy and freaky. Hong Kong cinema, Chinese cinema tends, as far as my limited knowledge goes, they tend not to have that many genuine horror films. Japanese, obviously, it's a massive industry. Korea have done really well. Vietnam, Indonesia, Thailand, you know, various other territories have made absolutely cracking, really creepy horror and horror themed films. But Hong Kong, China just don't seem to have the same, you know, the same sort of industry, if you like, you know, for that type of movie. And I'm not sure why that is. I mean, they've done supernatural stuff. They have done, you know, things with ghosts and monsters and things, but more often than not, they tend to be more comedic or kind of just silly and daft stuff like Mr. Vampire, you know, Encounters of the Spooky Kind, even some of the early Shaw Brothers stuff like Hex and Black Magic. You know, whilst they have their moments, they're not really that creepy, and you know, I don't know why that is. Maybe they have, but those films just haven't gotten over here for some reason. But Inner Senses, you know, I'll get round to that because that does look like a genuine creepy film. Anyway, let's move swiftly on. Whispering Corridors. Now, it's a Korean film, first in another loosely themed series, which are otherwise unconnected, but it's basically a bunch. I think there's about 6 or 7 films in this series. They're basically ghost stories set in, I think, primarily girls' schools. Memento Mori, that's the 3rd one. Tartan Asia only released, well, they released 4, but Wishing Stairs is the 3rd one. They released 4, but the 4th one is only available in a box set, which I will get to at the end. But those 3 individual releases are the only 3 individual ones of that series. Breaking News, another Johnny To film, which I haven't seen, but again, I will get to. It looks suitably interesting. Marabito, now, this is by, as you can see there, Takashi Shimizu, who did the Grudge films. I haven't seen this, but this is meant to be absolutely terrifying, and it's quite interesting because it has Shinya Tsukamoto in it, the director of Tetsuo and various other films, who is also quite an established actor as well. He's acts in a lot of his own films too. So yeah, we'll get to that. Infinity, I have seen this. Now this is quite interesting because the 3rd in the trilogy, it goes down a more comedic route, which actually kind of works quite well. I have watched this and it's quite entertaining. Unborn But Forgotten, another Korean chiller. This one I haven't seen, but I believe there's a little bit of a tragedy attached to this. I think the main actress killed herself. I'm not sure if it was to do with this film or another film, but I believe it was to do with her basically performing nude scenes in something. Apparently that's quite frowned on in Korea, which is an absolute shame that she was, you know, hounded by friends and family and possibly the media into doing that. Anyway, Lady Vengeance, the third of Park Chan-wook's Vengeance trilogy. I absolutely love this film. This is probably my favourite of the three. Yeah, you know, what can you say? It's absolutely cracking. It's got more of a little bit more humour, I would say, than the other two. The other two are brilliant. This one's got a little touch of that sardonic humour that a lot of Korean and Japanese films are really good at. Reincarnation, this is the third of the J-horror collection series, just your bog standard DVD case. I don't know if there was a lenticular for this one, because at this point there's Tartan, we're starting to wind down. There are another 3 films, and I wish they had released the other 3 films, because although the directors of these ones, I'm sure I mean, that's Takashi Shimizu, so that could be, you know, probably a decent film. The 2 of the remaining 3 that were unreleased in this country, one's by Hideo Nakata, which I'd love to see, and the other one's by Kiyoshi Kurosawa, which I really would love to see, because I absolutely love his films. Absolutely brilliant director, really freaky, so it'll be interesting to see. Anyway, next up, another sort of standard creepy film based around objects which seem to be becoming in vogue after Ring. You know, films, hauntings and ghost stories tied to various things. I have seen this one as well. It's entertaining. It's definitely worth a watch. Ghost of Maynak or Mynak. This is a Thai film, one of the few Thai films Tartan Asia Extreme released. Haven't seen it. Looks good though. I have seen this one, Spider Forest. Now, I really wish this would get a Blu-ray release. This needs a revival. This is one of those mind-bending films that, while it's not particularly scary, although it does have its moments, it's very twisty. It's more like, you know, if you like films like The Machinist, Donnie Darko, Identity, you know, Jacob's Ladder, yeah, just odd offbeat films that, you know, even when you get to the end of them, you're still there thinking, oh, Spider Forest is just brilliant. It's just brilliant. I must revisit that one. Red Shoes, yeah, another one. Tied, haunting stuff tied to an object. What more can you say? Haven't seen it. Haven't seen this. The Wig, yep, haunted wigs. And as you can see on the back, the extra features are really stripped down now. There pretty much isn't anything on this one, because at this point, you know, I'm not sure exactly when these were released, sort of mid 2000, I don't know, 2007, 2008, something like that. Tartan video in general, Tartan Asia Extreme, but Tartan video in general was just winding down. It was pretty much finished at this point. They were just putting out their last few releases. Finally, in the Dead or Alive trilogy, yeah, we'll get round to it. I believe it's, you know, it's completely bonkers compared to the first 2. Perth, don't know much about this, to be honest. It's got a few special features, but you just feel the quality, even the quality of the cases, the quality of the materials is kind of cheaper, a bit less robust. One Last Dance, yeah, again, I don't know much about this, but it's got Harvey Keitel in it, which is interesting. So yeah, we'll get there. Princess Aurora, a Korean revenge film. Yep, don't know anything about that either. And Yesterday. Yep, another Korean film. Looks good though. But yeah, just your kind of actiony films. This is where, you know, as I say, there was a few films here that I wouldn't necessarily class as extreme. So it just shows you how wide their kind of boundaries were for that stuff. Now we get to an interesting release. This is definitely the final Tartan Asia Extreme release that I'm aware of, Ghost School Quartet, and this is as I say, those 3 films there, Whispering Corridors, Memento Mori and Wishing Stairs, they're all here. And a 4th film, The Voice, which bizarrely has a cover. Now I wonder, because Tartan Asia Extreme also released in America, but they released different films in America. And I wonder if The Voice was released over there. But yeah, in the UK, this is the only way you can get a hold of this 4th in this Ghost School series, which definitely is more than 4 films as far as I'm aware. But the interesting thing is, it's got Tartan Asia Extreme on the label on the side and on the front. But, oops, nearly dropped it. Down here, Palisades Tartan. So by this point, Palisades are taken over. So they were in the process of transitioning over. Transition away from the Asia Extreme and Tartan Video labels. But they did put out another Park Chan-wook film. They put out a few films. I've got some, but they're just Palisades Tartan, as you can see. So they're not Asia Extreme, but Thirst, which I've also got in Blu-ray. So yeah, I've got a couple more things to show you, but I'll just show you these quickly. Yeah, Tale of Two Sisters, but it's Palisades Tartan Blu-ray rather than Extreme. If you can see under there, I've got another Palisades Tartan. So yeah, they put out a few films afterwards, but they ditched the Tartan Asia Extreme, they ditched the Tartan Video labels, and it all became one company, Palisades. But I don't think they did a huge amount. Now, special editions. I'm not going to open these up because this video is already 30 odd minutes long. But Battle Royale Tinned Edition, it's essentially the 2-disc version that I've got, but it's also got a few extra bits and bobs, like a film still, like an actual cut from the film, the negative. And I've got the same in this now. This one has got extra. This is actually 3 discs with various extra stuff in it, but again, it's got a clip from the film, like an actual bit of film. And more Vengeance Trilogy. This is the box set. Now the single releases I've got, the only one that's double disc is Old Boy, the rest are single disc. So, but in this they're double discs. And the main reason I got it is because Lady Vengeance, it comes with what's called the Fade to White or Fade to Black or Fade to Grey, depending on who you speak to. But basically the colour bleaches out the film as it goes, which I believe was the intent by the director. And the final thing I've got here is, again, it's the Vengeance Trilogy, and I'm not going to open it all up. But in this is probably the only, as far as I know, the only special edition that Tartan Asia Extreme did. I know they did a few box sets with their Tartan Video stuff, but you know, that is what it is. We're talking about Asia Extreme here. This is the same box set as this, but it also comes with a few extras like a poster, postcards, booklet, and a miniature hammer. That's essentially what is a toffee hammer. And if you have seen Old Boy, you'll know the significance of that. But anyway, so there we have it. I'll just run the camera over there as I'm speaking. Yeah, this is, as far as I know, I mean, if you're watching this video and you get to the end, please feel free to correct me, but I believe this is a complete run of Tartan Asia Extreme DVDs, plus a few extra bits and bobs. I haven't gone absolutely insane. As I say, I don't know if other editions came with slipcases or lenticular sleeves or what have you. I haven't chased any of those down, so I may well be missing that. I don't know if any of these came in steelbooks. I don't know if they were really doing steelbooks at the time. I do know that Audition, for example, came in a kind of card digipack type box, but I haven't really tracked that down because I don't really think there's much difference there. But aside from that, as far as I'm aware, this is a complete collection. But as I say, feel free to correct me in the comments if you do get this far. But if you've enjoyed watching this video and listen to my droning voice, yeah, cheers for that. And yeah, if you've got a full collection or you've got a partial collection, you know, drop us a link to your video, or if you want to chat about any of these films, yeah, leave a comment. Cheers for watching.